You won't believe that the United States just spent billions of dollars trying to escape China's control, but it might actually make China even stronger. However, it is happening. That's not a joke, even though many people hope it is. Right now, there's an unfolding that's almost invisible, and almost nobody is paying attention. That isn't about oil. It's not about gold. Rather, it's about the materials that power our fancy phones, futuristic cars, and even America's most advanced modern weapons. And one country, China, controls almost all of it. So the real question is, did the US walk into a trap? The trap of rare earth elements. A setup China has been preparing for the collective West, particularly the United States of America. At this moment, a fierce global competition is unfolding over rare earth minerals, vital to a wide array of technologies. Lithium is essential for high-capacity batteries. Cobalt is known for its stability in energy storage. Graphite is a key component in battery anodes. These minerals form the foundational elements of revolutionary innovations such as electric vehicles, which promise to transform transportation, green energy solutions that aim to combat climate change, smartphones that connect us to the world, and advanced military technology that enhances national security or sustains global dominance. In essence, these minerals are not just commodities, they represent the very building blocks of our future. And here's the scary part. China doesn't just mine these materials. It controls the entire system. For over 3 decades, while Western nations prioritized cost-efficient production methods, such as just-in-time, or the Toyota production system, and embraced the wave of globalization, China chose a markedly different strategic approach. This strategy was not about quick gains, but rather a long-term vision aimed at securing and dominating critical resources. Beijing's method involved much more than simply extracting minerals from the earth. They established control over every phase of the supply chain. This comprehensive strategy covered the entire ecosystem, starting with the extraction of raw materials through mining, advancing to the refining processes, and ultimately transforming these resources into advanced, usable technologies. Fast forward to today, and the results are striking. Approximately 90% of the processing of rare earth elements occurs in China, and we can never overestimate their dominance in this crucial sector. Additionally, around 74% of cobalt refining happens within Chinese borders, and they oversee about 65% of lithium processing. Furthermore, nearly 100% of the production of battery graphite, an essential component in modern batteries, is also concentrated in China. This strategic control gives China significant leverage in the global market for cutting-edge technologies and renewable energy solutions. It's important to recognize that even when natural resources are extracted in a different country, a significant portion of those materials ultimately ends up being processed or refined in China. So eventually, the US woke up. And when the moment arrived, it truly committed everything to the cause. We're witnessing a colossal infusion of billions in Washington's government funding, strategically allocated to drive innovation and infrastructure. Alongside that, a sweeping activation of emergency powers was enacted to streamline decision-making and expedite vital processes. The US government also initiated unprecedented investments in defense sectors, recognizing the crucial need to bolster national security and self-reliance. Collaborations with private sector leaders were also forged, fostering a spirit of partnership that aimed to leverage cutting-edge technology and expertise. This comprehensive and ambitious plan was designed to liberate the nation from its reliance on China's rare earth ecosystem, ushering in a new era of autonomy. On paper, it appears to be a brilliant strategy, a daring leap toward greater independence and strength of the United States. But here's where things take a fascinating turn, and people will eventually realize that God is not always on America's side. The plan might fail. What if the very strategy Washington is relying on begins to show signs of weakness? To complicate matters further, what if China possesses the ability to alter the dynamics of this situation at any moment, altering the course the US has set? We have to look at the core problem. Or the core of the problem. The most pressing challenge the US faces is not found in the mining of raw materials themselves. Instead, the core of the problem lies in the processing stage, transforming these raw materials into components that can be utilized effectively in Western industries. This conversion process is not only costly but also demands a high level of technical expertise. It requires specialized knowledge and skills that are not easily acquired, making the entire operation increasingly complex and reliant on specific technologies. Also, rare earth elements are usually byproducts of other economic activities, like the extraction of aluminum from its ore, bauxite, which relies heavily on electricity. What about the United States? Unfortunately, the country lacks the capacity to effectively utilize resources at scale. Even if the US were to increase its mining efforts and extract more materials, it wouldn't be able to leverage those resources for production fully. It's similar to owning a vast supply of wheat without the proper means or facilities to turn it into bread. The potential is there, but without the right infrastructure, talents, or processes in place, that potential cannot be realized. Now we arrive at a critical juncture that should raise alarm bells for everyone involved. Imagine a scenario where the ambitious plans put forth by the United States come to fruition. New mines spring into action, factories rise from the ground, and billions of dollars are funneled into these ventures. On the surface, everything appears to be thriving, a picture of prosperity and growth. But then, a single strategic move from China could unravel it all. They might decide to inundate the market with product, drastically increasing supply. This sudden flood could send shockwaves through the global economy, resulting in plummeting prices that could leave many reeling. History has shown us this volatile pattern before. In instances like this, prices have tumbled by as much as 80%. The once vibrant landscape of opportunity could quickly morph into a grim reality of oversaturation and financial loss. Then, we see the real face of the trap, the most exciting part of the story. Picture this: you're the leader of a newly established Western company, and you've just invested billions of dollars into your operations. After years of development, the moment arrives, and you are finally ready to start producing the finished products. Excitement and anticipation fill the air. However, just as you begin to ramp up production, an unexpected turn of events occurs: market prices plummet. A combination of oversupply, dwindling demand, and fierce competition leaves your once promising venture unable to compete effectively. Despite your best efforts and significant investments, the financial burden becomes too great to bear. With mounting debts and dwindling revenues, your company faces insolvency and is forced to declare bankruptcy. It's a crushing blow, and it feels like game over, not just for your company, but also for the countless employees and stakeholders affected by the fallout. But then, the landscape shifts once again. In the wake of your company's collapse, a major player from China steps in with opportunistic intent. With their vast resources and strategic vision, they swoop in and acquire your assets for mere pennies on the dollar. As they take control, they're poised to rebuild and dominate the market that you once aimed to conquer. The cycle continues, and your story serves as a cautionary tale in the increasingly competitive global economy. You cry, but you cannot find the right shoulder. The story does not stop there. As we examine the international landscape, the situation becomes increasingly complex. The United States is not navigating these waters alone. Rather, it is actively forging alliances and building strong coalitions with various nations. This process involves establishing global partnerships and launching ambitious initiatives to create a more interconnected network of support and mutual benefit. In stark contrast, China adopts a much more straightforward strategy. Its approach involves reaching out to countries rich in natural resources and presenting them with a clear, efficient offer. We will invest in your infrastructure development, and in return, you will supply us with the necessary minerals and resources. This method is not only swift but also direct, effective, and even brutal, enabling rapid agreement. While the West invests significant time and effort in constructing intricate systems of cooperation and collaboration and drafting the most professional PowerPoint presentations, China is already busy securing concrete deals that often yield immediate results. This difference in approach raises questions about effectiveness and long-term strategy in the realm of international relations. So, is the US completely doomed? Not exactly. This strategy does buy something very important: time. But time only matters if one uses it correctly. If the United States wants to compete on the global stage, primarily with China, effectively, money always talks the loudest. But the US is poor, unfortunately. With $39 trillion of national debt, still counting, the US desperately needs money to fill gaps, not merely in the rare earth sector, but in many other fields. Also, the United States must adopt a long-term vision rather than relying on temporary solutions or quick fixes. It involves setting clear, achievable goals for the future of industry and technology, as well as establishing policies that promote sustained growth and adaptability over time. But all US administrations are forced to be short-sighted. There is no such thing as long-term vision in the United States, unlike China, which has 5-year plans and 100-year goals. China did not achieve its current dominance in rare earth technology and manufacturing in a short time. It took decades of steady investment, strategic planning, and relentless execution to reach this point. Consequently, if the US aims to reverse this trend and regain its competitive standing, it must be prepared for a long-term commitment, which is more difficult than trying to pass a camel through the eye of a needle. So now we are at a critical moment. The US has made its move. The money is spent. The plan is in motion. But the real question is, will this become a comeback story, or the biggest economic miscalculation of the century? Because if this fails, China doesn't just win. It wins completely.